hello and welcome to Becoming You. I'm shooketh. I'm shooketh because Dustin, my co-host today, as many of you know, Dustin Liu is my co-host when we do the Career Confidential version of the Becoming You podcast. We talk all about careers, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Last time we did a Career Confidential, it's true. Somebody said your hair was too long and you look like a mop.
But look at me now with a fade haircut for the new year.
You kind of like it better with a mop. I'm sorry.
We're back without a mop this time.
I know, I'll tell you.
New year, new haircut, new topics.
Yes, new topics.
To talk about.
So today we're talking on Career Confidential. And again, welcome to Becoming You. If you're new to us, welcome, especially welcome. But if you're here with us, regardless, no matter if you're old or new, welcome back to a Career Confidential, which we do sporadically, version of Becoming You, where we talk about careers, everything careers, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And today, I think we're going into the bad and ugly area because we're talking about being fired. I mean, the reason why we're talking about it is because Dustin got back to work this week.
Absolutely.
And what happened? We
were sitting at the table. We were having a hunky-dory meeting.
Yeah.
And then I just kept getting texts.
And?
First text came at 9:03.
Read it.
Dustin, I just got fired. Period.
Okay.
So I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm going to call you later. I'm in a team retreat. I'm talking to Suzy. 9:23, I get another text. Dustin, I just logged on this morning and they told me they're firing me. WTF. And then 10:30 a.m., I got a text from a friend that said that they got laid off too. So in a span of an hour and a half at the start of the new year, 3 people that I had talked to in the last 2 weeks got fired.
And so these are young people like you.
Young people, they're between the ages of 23 and 30.
Yep.
And now they're trying to figure out what comes next.
All right. All right. Well, we're going to go there. So today we're going to talk about getting fired. I have a lot of experience with this. First of all, I teach about this topic in my management class, but I've also been fired 3 times. First, I was fired quite publicly by the Harvard Business Review. Secondly, I was fired by my very own husband, Jack. And I'll tell that story about what it feels like to get fired by your husband. Okay.
Was it done well?
Yes, he did it extremely well, and I kind of knew it was coming, but he really fired me full out, okay? And third, I got fired from a consulting gig that I took on at the beginning of my teaching, and it was sort of a parting of ways, but it was still, if I had to be honest about it. So I've been fired. I've definitely fired people, but I study this whole topic myself. And so what we're going to go over are a couple of things. We're going to talk about what's going on with the economy, how you know if you're about to be fired, what you can do to try to stop yourself from being fired, which is good for anybody who is working right now, what to do in the moment of being fired, and what to do once you've been fired. We're going to cover all that territory. Finally, I'm going to leave you with my very, very best piece of advice. If you've been fired, it's the same literal piece of advice I give to everybody who's ever been fired. So stand by for that at the end. Dustin, let's do it.
Well, I want to just start off at the big picture. I mean, 3 people at the start of the new year. I mean, 1, does this happen often at the start of the new year? And 2, what's happening in the world right now, Suzy, in your eyes, that might be causing this to happen?
Right. Okay. So I think it's a little unusual because usually people would be laid off right before the holidays because then, okay, get them out the door. I don't have to think about it. Hopefully they're having fun with their families or whatever. So I do think the timing is a little unusual, but it is not, if you go up to 20,000 feet and you get macroeconomic about it, it is absolutely not unusual at all. We're at the highest levels of layoffs and firings in the economy since the pandemic. So it's slightly lower than it was in 2020, middle of the pandemic, as you recall. I mean, I myself, very sadly, had to lay off almost everybody at the company I was running in 2020. We were 55 people. The pandemic hit and we went down to 16.
Wow.
I still have incredible PTSD about it, as do the people who it happened to. I cried as I did it. It's terrible.
Yeah.
But it doesn't sound like anybody was crying when your friends were fired, from what I can tell. But we're at those levels right now. The statistics we have are through September, and they show that about 1 million people were fired. So it's probably 1.234 million people were fired in 2025. And so there's a couple of reasons. One is employers are very nervous. There's all sorts of massive tectonic changes going on in different industries. And so companies are letting people go as quickly as they can to try to lower risk. There's some sectors that are much more susceptible to this than others. Definitely technology, retail, but all sort of professional services as AI comes moving in. And organizations in general are very, very nervous about adding headcount because the visibility is misty. Let's just put it that way. Some people are very bullish and some people are very bearish. but you're going to always cover your ass for downside risk when you're running a business. But there's another trend going on that is not macroeconomic, and it's more cultural and microeconomic. And it's been reported widely. This is not my own research, which is that employers are laying off Gen Zers at a record rate within months of being hired. Two different news outlets did some research on this, and they found it to basically be a result of culture mismatch. Okay, that the companies have this culture, and what used to happen is, and the Gen Z employees have a different culture, different values. And the employers are now moving very quickly to let them go instead of trying to bring them along. Now, I have a couple different thoughts about this. I think I'm going to guess this is somewhat of what happened with your friends. What's interesting is that employers now have more intent. They're not scared of laying off their Gen Z employees. They think, okay, the economy's good enough. I'm gonna be able to backfill them. So that's one thing that's going on. And they're also realizing I can't change them, so I'm just gonna cut my losses. Now we at Becoming You Labs, as you well know, have done research on the cultural mismatch between what hiring managers want from their employees, which is of the values of achievement, work centrism, and scope. In other words, sort of a hunger for learning and stimulation. And in general, Gen Z's top values are not those at all, to put it mildly. They are eudaimonia, self-care, personal pleasure, voice, and non-sibby, which is helping people, which is great, but it's not what the employers are looking for. And if you put those two data sets together, there's a 2% overlap. So only 2%.
Let's say that again. Okay. So what does that mean?
It means that only 2% of Gen Z is presenting in the workplace with the values that most hiring managers, most companies are looking for. So you've got I don't want to be graphic about this, but you have got a lot you kind of got a target on you because they already suspect you don't have their values. Yeah. And now what's happening is if they see you don't have them, they're like, okay, out of here. Let's go. We're going to keep looking for the 2%. So there's the macroeconomic in that the economy is uncertain and companies are laying people off. And in a way, they're laying them off now. The research would show, the statistics would show they're laying them off in small bunches. Yeah. So this is causing sort of chronic anxiety. It's not like, oh, I'm waiting for a big layoff. People are feeling like, oh, people are being laid off all around me all the time. Mm-hmm. And it's almost like there's landmines everywhere. So if you're feeling chronic anxiety at work and you're feeling like I could get fired, you are not alone. Yeah. So what's going on are macro and microeconomic forces. And on top of that, a cultural phenomena involving Gen Z. So
welcome to business school.
Yeah.
This is it. Business school with Suzy Welch. I want to take a moment and maybe just really make the distinction. Even in my set of 4, now 5 friends, I actually just got another text.
Oh my God.
A few of them were fired.
I'm beginning to wonder about your friends, Dustin.
My friends are they well? But I want to make this distinction because some people were laid off and some people were fired because of performance reasons. And what you just described is macroeconomic trends that might be causing industries to constrain, but also some of them really didn't.
Let's have a reality check here.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it because look, in every layoff, some people stay and some people go. Yeah. And the company, to make you feel better, calls it a layoff. But I have been in the room where it happens, and the big boss basically says we've got to lay off 20%, and I've seen the managers pick who's going and who's staying. Yeah. So it's essentially a firing, okay? Yeah. Now, so they'll say, oh, it's part of a layoff, but you were chosen to go, all right? And it's performance related. Then in other situations, the person's called in and said, you're just not what we want. It's not a fit. It's not working out. You're not mad. And so they're technically fired. Yeah. You tell me the difference. It's a little bit of semantics. But at the end of the day, it's very, very rare. I'm sorry, truth bomb. It's very, very rare that somebody is let go if there's not a tinge of performance. Okay, sometimes look, at Quadio, I knew I had to bring the head count down or we were going to die. We did not have enough money. All of our clients went away because our clients were colleges and the colleges closed. And so I had to let go. But 15 people remained. You got to believe they were the best performers. Okay. Yeah. So there's always it's very rare that somebody who has top performance is let go.
And honestly, at the end of the day, you're left with the situation where you don't have a job. So I want to take a moment and just really recognize that the emotions
let's talk about it.
The people might feel are the same, whether you're laid off or fired.
And you know what it feels like?
The fact is that you don't have a job.
You know what it feels like? It feels like a death.
Feels like a death.
You've never been fired.
I have not yet been fired in my life, yes.
I'm going to go big here and predict you're never going to be fired because your performance is so high, but I've been fired and I fired people, and I can tell you this. It's like a public death. It is, first of all, you're embarrassed.
Yeah.
Okay. It's like, so you can't believe it's happening to you.
Yeah.
Even if you think, oh man, I wasn't really doing very well. It's very, very rare. I mean, I've heard of instances where people have gotten fired and they've been like, okay, I get it. You know, it was coming, you know,
Yeah.
what's my deal? Okay. I've
Yeah.
heard of those cases. Most of the time, it's like, you know, the closest thing to it, having gone through it again myself, it's like being somebody telling you they want a divorce. Okay.
Yeah.
It's really agonizing. Your identity sort of collapses through. I recently had a conversation with one of my children who got fired, and I got a call in the middle of the day, very unusual for this child who's now completely reemployed, thanks be to God. And he said, he told me, Mom, I've been let go. And the pain, it's painful. The pain was so evident. My heart broke for him, even though we'd been talking about the fact that he was going to get fired by this company for years, okay? Because he was kind of missing here and missing there. And they were doing all this signaling, which we're going to talk about, how your company tells you before they tell you.
Yeah.
The company does sort of usually signal to you. The pain is real. You feel embarrassed. You feel shame. You feel anger.
Yeah.
You feel fear beyond belief. Like you got rent.
Especially today,
Yeah.
in this labor market.
How am I going to get reemployed?
Yeah.
There's this every single bad emotion. And I do think the closest thing is a divorce. I have a story in Becoming You where I actually spoke to a woman who ended up going through the Becoming You process, who was fired on the same day that her husband told her that he wanted a divorce. And I was like, how did you keep going? And, you know, I was thinking to myself, the only thing worse was that if her landlord knocked on the door and said, you know, I'm kicking you out. Because, I mean, these are the big three things, right? And so it was brutal. It took her 2 years to get her feet back on the ground. Wow. But she's fine now. But I would say it's a terrible, terrible feeling. People live with it for a long time.
Yeah.
It can change how you feel about work. It can change how you feel about yourself. It can, you know, work for some people, you know, you've got friends there, or you trusted the boss, or all these different things. So it's truly, it's almost a physical, and sometimes it is a physical reaction.
Of course.
Yeah.
I want to maybe take a step back and go back to something that you said, which
Yeah.
is signals that you're about to be fired.
Yeah.
Because honestly, in this group of now 5 friends, 2 of them called me during the break and they were like, Dustin, I really am not liking my job, or hey, the vibes are a little bit off at work.
Yeah.
So as someone who has been in a company where you are trying to signal to your employee, hey, performance isn't there, like, what are some signs that you might be on a tightrope?
There's so many signs. I think there's actually 5 very distinct signs. And the thing is, the reason why I was saying to my son before he got laid off, you're going to be laid off, is because I saw it. I was like, I'm telling you right now. So, all right, so let's go over the 5 signs. All right, so the first sign is you're made in some just kind of surreptitious, amorphous way to feel like a dead man walking. Okay, right?
Can you say more about that?
Right,
like, what does that mean?
Dead man walking is what happens when somebody, I mean, the term comes from jails, where a person is on death row and everybody knows he's going to get it later. And when he walks down the jail cell way, nobody makes eye contact with them and people kind of look away because he's a dead man walking. And so this is what happens to you at work. People stop making eye contact with you. The boss doesn't call on you in meetings. You're sort of treated as a person who's there but not there. It's actually all really subtle physical cues usually. Or in a meeting, like you say something and then they just sort of refer to the thing that somebody else said right after you, and you're just meant to feel as if you end up feeling like you're a bit of a ghost. You are, I mean, I think it's a pretty descriptive term, dead man walk, and that's what you feel like. And that's the first way you feel it. And I bet your friends got something of that. Like,
they said the energy's off.
That's right.
It doesn't feel like they're paying as much attention to me.
That's it. And it's a little bit with eye contact.
Yeah.
Like, think about you and me, like when we're like laughing together, eye contact all the time.
Straight on, yeah.
But when you're a boss and you're about to let somebody go, you are like, you don't want to look them straight in the face. And you know what you want more than anything when you're a boss and you think somebody's going to go? You know what you want desperately?
What do you want?
You want them to quit.
So you want them to just go.
to quit so badly so that you don't have to do the deed. You don't want to have to talk to them about severance. You don't want to have to hear them crying. You don't want to. You want your problem to go away so badly. You desperately want them to quit.
Just go away.
And so go away. And so the way you do that, and it's not right. I'm not advocating for it, but you do all sorts of things to make them to leave.
Yeah.
You want to make it so unpleasant for them in subtle ways that they could never put their finger on you for it. Make them so, and so like those people's bosses were giving them bad vibes because they just wanted them to quit. So that's the number one thing: subtle, amorphous, All right, like just ask yourself, do I feel like a dead man or dead woman walking? If you do, that's a sign. So that's the number one
Got it.
sign,
So
okay?
just getting a sense of cues.
Yep.
What's number 2?
Yeah. All right. Things start getting put in writing. You have a meeting with your boss.
Like performance
Yeah,
reviews, or
no, even
what do
more
you
subtle
think?
than that. Like
Okay.
if you have a meeting with your boss,
Yeah.
and it doesn't go very well, it's awkward. A lot of stuff is not said, but you sort of get this weird feeling about it. Then later in the day, you get an email that says something like, "Dear Dustin, I just wanted to reiterate in our meeting that I asked you to do X, and it was not delivered on time.
My stomach is in a knot.
And I expressed my dissatisfaction with you.
Yeah.
In your but things start getting put in writing.
So documentation starts
They're
happening.
documenting.
Yeah.
Now, look, I want to say, make it very clear that a lot of people right now are hired at will, and you could fire without cause. That's how it is in most organizations these days. But if you're not in one of those organizations where there's a big apparatus or there's an employee union or whatever, you're going to start seeing things in writing more and more.
Got it.
Beware.
Beware.
Be aware.
Beware
I mean,
when there's
actually, if
emails
you actually get a performance review out of the blue, and it comes first it's in person, and then it's documented in writing afterwards, and you're thinking like, wait, why am I getting a performance review? I've never gotten one of these before. Aren't we a little off schedule for a performance review? Bing, 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 bing.
It's a sign.
It's a definite sign. Okay, that's the second sign for sure.
What's number 3?
Okay, you look around, and everyone has more work than you. Like, you're not busy, but everyone's busy.
So your to-do list starts getting a little bit lower. You
Yeah.
maybe get removed off projects.
Right, you're
or
removed
not.
off. You're not
Yeah.
given new work.
Yeah.
Okay, what they're doing is they're already taking your work and they're divvying it up. They're
Yeah.
giving it to other people, and they're preparing for your not being there anymore.
Yeah.
And so you are like, wait, where's my workflow? Like, oh, the minute you start being taken off projects or not reassigned to projects, and your workload starts shrinking, and you notice like, oh wait, and like you're able to leave at 5, and everybody else like working till 7 or 8, and you
Something's
think
off.
something is off. That they're taking away your work in preparation for your. Yes, exactly. That's the third one. That's one to watch out for. In some organizations, right before you're let go, or to sort of give themselves the conversation to let you go, you're given some kind of test or assessment. Okay. It happens a lot at professional services firms that
Yeah.
they'll give everybody on the team the same assessment. Like, we just got this memo in, what would be your response? And you think, wait, why are we all writing our responses? And it's a test or an assessment. Or in some organizations, you're given a tool like our very own, say, Career Traits Compass. So we have a tool called the Career Traits Compass, which is coming out in its final. It's been in beta for a long time, and it assesses where you are on the continuum from individual contributor to leader.
Yeah.
Very accurate test. And some people are meant to be individual contributors, and organizations need and love them. And some people are meant to be leaders, and organizations can need and love them. But this tool is very good for you doing your own self-assessment about where you are on the continuum, so you can find the right career path for yourself and explain yourself better to people. But if your organization, if your HR department calls you in and asks you to take a test like StrengthsFinder or Career Traits Compass or any other kind of established assessment test,
It's a sign.
they're gathering data. I mean, you can ask, why am I getting this? And they'll say something like, well, everybody's getting it. And you think, okay, what are they doing? They're putting together their reasoning. Again, most organizations can fire at will now. So this
Yeah.
is a little bit for organizations that are larger and take more steps to protect themselves. All right, there's a fifth sign. It's subtle, and it's when it's if you've ever had the thought, this is the Grim Reaper speaking to you. If you've ever
Really?
thought, I'll never get fired, I'm untouchable, I'm indispensable. Because when you feel that way, the organization and your boss smell it off of you, and they hate it. They hate it. Organizations hate people who think that they're untouchable, or because they
What does that look like?
It
Like
looks
when someone
like-
is untouchable or feels like they're untouchable.
there's somebody says something and they roll their eyes.
Oh.
Okay. Or they say no to certain pieces of work. Okay.
Yeah.
Look, there's a really difficult client, and you say, and everyone hates having this client, and they go to the performer, and you say, you got to deal with the Jones account. And they say, make Dustin do it. I brought in X amount of dollars I've earned the right not to do that work. And
Wow.
you can be a very tippy top. We call these people, when I teach management, I call this particular type of employee the headache, because they have very high performance, but they don't have the company's values.
Yeah.
Most companies have the values of teamwork, of
course.
right, everything that you would expect, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
But if you think, okay, I'm a tip top, look, they can't. I'm too important. They cannot possibly live without me. They'll call your bluff on that one a lot of the times. That doesn't sound like that was going on with your friends, though.
It wasn't as much, but
Yeah.
I will say that one of them did feel like they would never fire them because it
Why?
was a small team.
Right.
And because she was there for a while and she understood the workflows.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if what you're describing actually did happen.
Yeah. She thought, look, this is perfect. She thought, they'll never fire me. It's a small team. They can't
Yeah.
live without me. They smelled it.
They smelled it.
They
might have
smelled it. And you know what? If she was really good, she also was sort of had a different attitude, which was like, they can't live without me. That makes me want to try even harder, because what a letdown it would be if I didn't do my right. Then it would be a totally different thing. But she definitely let off a very unfortunate, I'm guessing,
Yeah.
odor of feeling indispensable. No can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Suzy, as someone who has been in the position where you've had to fire people,
Yeah.
how do you come to that conclusion? Like, at what point do you say, this is no longer going to work out? Because I've seen you give people so many chances.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, help me understand,
Right.
as a really experienced manager, like, when do you make the decision?
It usually comes down to money. No decent human being wants to fire anybody.
Yeah.
They don't. And it's agonizing. And you usually give people way too long. But so it goes drip, drip, drip. And sometimes you know right away, like, oh man, they're just not doing the work.
Yeah.
And you let it go and you give them another chance, because why? You hate the terrible conversation. And then you're looking at your budget and you're like, this person is
Making X amount of money.
making X amount of money, and they're just not performing. And I want to replace them with somebody who's basically a producing asset. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry, this is
It's
business.
business.
Okay.
It's
And
business.
so that's a real problem. So this is actually the reason that I got fired. I'm sure they would object if they heard me describe it this way. I was working at a wonderful consulting firm when I first started teaching at NYU, and many professors work in consulting firms. And they kind of had me as a senior advisor, where I would come in, and if they had a client who had a problem that was my area of expertise, and they were paying me a princely sum because it's a consulting firm.
Yeah.
But I was not. The clients liked me, but I was not selling new business, and I wasn't selling new business because it's not my area of expertise. It's not my forte. I don't come to it very, I just wasn't doing that. I was quite distracted by what I really loved, which was teaching at NYU, and it was kind of, look, we came to an agreement that I needed to go full time as a professor. This was several years ago, and so what happened was they called me in to renegotiate my contract. And they gave me, look, we're going to renegotiate it because you're not a performing asset, is basically what they said. And they made me an offer that was so low I couldn't say yes to it. So it was the equivalent of being let go. And I think we agreed to part ways as friends. And that's because I'm a grown-up now. I mean, I think I could have had my feelings hurt, or they could have been mad. But we all understood that business is an island and you see everyone again. And we all wanted to be friends with each other, and we parted ways and I said to them, if you ever need me for anything, I'm happy to come back completely pro bono, and because I know I didn't perform as you would have wanted me to, but it didn't work out, and we agreed to part ways. And so I think that this is the case. When you end up getting fired, it's because at the end of the day, you're not earning your keep. All right. I mean, it's a business. It's an economic relationship.
Yeah.
You're not there to make anybody feel good. I mean, maybe you can make people feel good. You're not there just because you've got a delightful personality. At the end of the day, somebody is making, there's a profit and loss statement. There's a P&L that some manager is watching, and you're on it.
Yeah. So let's say that we catch wind of one of these signs, one of these 5 signs.
Right.
What do you do, Suzy? If
right.
you're in a position where you're noticing vibes are off,
Right.
your boss starts taking you off projects,
Right.
things start getting put in writing,
Yeah.
what would you do?
All right, so I think there's a couple of things that you can do. And frankly, I'm going to suggest you do these whether or not you've got these bad vibes going on, because they're just really good strategies for succeeding at work. So let's go over them. Here's a funny little trick for the number one thing you should do, okay?
Yeah.
Because your boss has done it. So I'm going to suggest you do it. And that is, go back to your JD, go back to your original job description and grit your teeth, get your courage up, and look and see if you're doing everything on it.
Get that highlighter out,
because
right?
your boss, the person who's about to fire you,
Yeah.
has said, this is what they've said 99% of the time. They're not doing anything on their JD, okay? They're not doing, look, we hired that person to do boom, 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 boom. They're doing boom. Okay, that's what they're
I've heard
thinking.
you say that before, yeah.
Right, okay, I mean, I've done this. This is what I just like.
Literally, go back to the JD.
Right,
why did we hire you?
Right, why did we hire you? Look at this. We hired you to do these 10 things. You're doing 4, and 3 of them so-so, okay? And what happens is, you're always hired with a JD that's much bigger than any normal job would be. Every JD is like, boil the ocean. And you think, when I get there, I'll boil the little pond over here. But your boss, when they're making the case against you in their mind, is thinking about all the things that you agreed to do for that amount of money. So number one, go back to your JD. It's going to be a terrifying moment for most people. Look at what you're not doing and make a list of what you're not doing. And if you want to keep that job, I mean, I would literally create a document that says, here, hey boss, I want to have kind of a check-in with you because I was just recently revisiting my JD and I noticed I'm doing 4 of the 10 things we agreed to. And I want to talk to you about my plan going forward to fill in those 6. Your boss will immediately lay down on the floor and need oxygen because nobody in the whole world has ever done that. But if you really want to keep your job because you like it and you see a future for yourself,
that's what you should do.
Go do it.
You have to advocate for yourself.
You have to, and then you got to perform.
And then you got to perform.
Okay, you got to
not only just perform, right? You have to kind of
over deliver. Yeah, but that's my next point. But let's do this. I think the first thing you've got to do is get inside the head of your boss. Okay, yeah. And so if you go inside the head of the boss is looking at you, and they're not thinking, "I love them." They're thinking, if they're giving you bad vibes, they're seeing you with the most critical eyes, and you have to do this very hard thing: is think, why are they hating on me? Whenever I meet a guy or a woman who's just been broken up with, and they're saying all the horrible things about the person who just broke up with them, I always have this one question to sort of turn the conversation on its head. I say, well, if I was sitting here alone with them, the person who just broke up with them, what would they say about you? This always stop somebody in their tracks, right?
What a pleasure to have at a dinner party.
No. When I did do it, I've not been on very many dates since I've been widowed, right? I've not been on very many dates, but I was set up on one. Oh, please. Oh. Top 5 worst nights of my life. Okay, I'm not equipped. But anyway, this guy went on for an hour of everything wrong with his ex-wife. It was just completely horrible. I want to hear, it's none of my business. A long list of everything wrong with her. And I said to him, if she was sitting here, what would she say about why you got divorced? What would she say about you? Speechless. Okay, but you kind of got to do that.
Yeah.
You've got to go into the head of your boss and say, what do they think is wrong with me?
Yeah.
And this is, look, you have to be a real grown-up to do this. You have to be really, you have to let go a lot of your ego, all of your ego, in fact, to do it. I mean, he was not able to answer me, no surprise, okay? But you really got to do that. So one way to do that is to go back to the JD because your boss is thinking about all the things they hired you for. You know what else they're thinking? They're thinking about what everybody else is. Think about the best performer at your company.
Yeah.
And say, okay, I'm probably not the best performer, but Eliza is. What does she do differently than me?
Yeah.
And then slap yourself and tell the truth, okay? Yeah. She's always in there very, very early.
Yeah.
She's always coming up with new things to do. All these other things. And don't hate on Eliza. Figure out what she's doing better than you. So compare yourself to everybody else.
Yeah.
And get over yourself. Compare yourself. Okay, that's number 1. And number 2, look at the JD. Okay, so then part of that is if they give you another chance after all of that, you've got to over deliver. You've got to surprise and delight them, actually doing. Look, the only place you get claps for doing exactly the assignment is school.
It's the only place.
Only place. Yeah. What a lie school tells you. What a lie. That doing the assignment is enough. School's lying to you, everybody. Yeah. I mean, it tells you that it's not. You've got to surprise. You've got to over deliver.
Yeah.
And you got to make the assignment
bigger.
Extra
credit, right?
Yeah. I mean, we all know I gave a final exam and I said 7 of the 10 questions are required and the other 3 are extra credit. And I was stunned that some some of my students didn't do the extra credit.
But Suzy, I'm a sucker for extra credit.
Oh my God, please. I'd make up questions to give myself extra credit.
From the first grade. I'm like, how do I get extra credit, right?
Enneagram type 3s unite.
Here we go.
So I would say that do the extra credit, but don't suggest the extra credit and then do it. Okay, invent the extra credit. I mean, this blows my mind. Here I was. Now, it wasn't a lot of my students. These are Stern MBAs, by the way, so they're very, very ambitious and so forth. But there were actually students who did just 7 questions. I mean, and then there were other people who wrote long essays on the 3 extra credit questions. If it had been me, I literally would have written extra credit questions number 4 and 5 and answered those as well because I got a screw loose.
Yes.
Okay. But anyway, so over deliver. Yeah. And that means make the job bigger and then deliver on it. So that's the second thing. If you want to keep your job, you may not want to, but if you want to. All right, so here's another thing you've got to do. It's going to feel very hard because the boss is making you feel like a dead man walking. You got to pull the boss aside and you actually got to say, I love my job and I want to keep it.
Do you mean metaphorically say that, or do you mean literally say, I love this job, I want to keep it, Suzy?
Yeah.
You mean literally say that?
Yeah. I mean, I've asked employees during performance reviews, do you love this job and want to keep it? Because as a boss, I want to know if that's true or not. I want to know if they're looking. You and I have had this conversation.
Many times.
We have.
Many times.
I've like literally
Very
said to you, I'm
honestly.
afraid of losing you, and
Yeah.
what would it take for me to keep you? I mean, I've had that conversation with
Yeah.
you. So I think that your boss wants to know it, and your boss may just think, they start treating you like you're a dead man walking. Most people kind of retreat and they're like, whoa, I'm getting bad vibes. I'm going to kind of hold on and, until I have more information about this. You got to lean in and say, I want this job. And you could say, look, what would it take for me to get an A+ here? What am I missing? And you have to be very grown up to have that conversation. No one's going to have it for you. All right, no cavalry is coming in to have that conversation for you. So if you want to keep your job after you're getting the 5 big signals, I'm telling you, you got to lean in. So that's another one. And okay, well, now we're going to get back to what I was talking about at the beginning, because a lot of times you get fired not for performance, but for values, and you're not demonstrating the organization's values. So I guess question number 1 is, what are my organization's values? Do I know them?
Yeah.
Am I living them?
Yeah.
So you go and you look and see, there's the tippy top employee. It's Isa. She's the organization's tippy top employee. What are her values? What is she demonstrating? And I'm telling you what it's going to be. It's going to be achievement. It's going to be work centrism. It's going to be client focus. It's going to be all sorts of stuff. And do you have those values? Are you demonstrating them? Because what's happening with the Gen Z firing, we're hearing from this research that's been done, is it's all about not fitting in, which is just code language for saying they're not demonstrating the values. They're not coming in early. They're not leaving late. They're not showing GER. They're not showing ambitious. They're not loving the clients. They're not obsessed with the products. These are all things that companies want you to demonstrate. And if you're blah and blasé because you're thinking in the back of your mind, I'm never going to stay at this company because nobody stays anywhere anymore. Well, they're saying, okay, you may feel that, but you better not be showing it.
And Suzy, sometimes, I mean, You've shared this in conversations in the management class. Sometimes there's nothing you can do. Can you just what do you do if you hate the job?
Yeah.
They don't like you.
Right.
What happens then?
I mean, it's time for you to go.
Great.
Gotta go. And not all jobs are forever. I mean, look, I'm thinking about my first big firing from Harvard Business Review, which I've discussed many times in this podcast. I mean, I got fired because I ran off with Jack Welch, which was I'd do it again tomorrow. I could have done things differently, and I should have, because it caused a bit of a mess, and I learned a huge amount from it. It was a very irregular firing, and so it's not like how often does somebody, fall in love with somebody and then they're asked to step down and so forth. So it's not a regular firing. But when I was parted ways with this consulting firm, it was time for me to go. I mean, I was not doing what they wanted. I was not enjoying myself at all. And so it was time to go. And so we did part ways. So your question is?
My question is, sometimes people just don't work out.
It's over.
It doesn't work out.
Right.
And it's over.
Yeah.
Or maybe something's done and then there's no going back.
No, there's no going back. It didn't work out. All right. So
I want to maybe take a moment and focus on the moment that someone gets fired.
Yeah.
Someone gets the news. Suzy, what's your advice on how they might approach that moment?
Okay. It happens. You're sitting there. You kind of know the minute before it happens because you get a note from HR or your boss, like suddenly a time on Friday afternoon comes on your calendar. And so here's my advice about the moment of being fired.
Yeah.
It is one of the hardest moments in your life. It is, you feel sick. A lot of times it happens on a computer now. It used to happen. Zoom.
Logged on Zoom and
right.
then you get
I know. It's a moment where you have to do a lot of stuff that does not come naturally, which is that you have to be poised and you have to be your best self. And I am obsessed, like the rest of humanity, with this viral video that's going around. I'm sure you've seen it. It's had something like 120 million views. And it was at a big school function. It happened in December. And there's a bunch of kids holding candles. And it's like a group of like 14, 15-year-old kids. And there's a girl holding a candle and her hair catches fire.
Correct.
Her uncle took it. Yeah. And you see her, she smiles, and she pats out the fire. Her hair's caught on fire, okay? And she pats out the fire, and then everybody's like, are you okay? Are you okay? She goes, I'm fine. I've watched it like 70,000 times. This, all the 200 million views.
You're a big nut.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I am responsible for many of them. But because I think that this poise is what's required of us. Like, if you feel like your hair's caught on fire when you're being fired, okay? I mean, she's literally been fired, okay? Yeah. And her head caught on fire, and she's like so poised in the moment. Yeah, she has this like she puts it out,
unbothered,
right? And so she acknowledges it. I think the one thing I did right when I was being fired from HBR, I mean, I don't know how I did it in the moment because every single negative emotion in the universe was like churning in me like a sea storm. But the one thing that I did that was right was I said, thank you for the opportunity to work at this great institution. And I literally called it a great institution as it was kicking me out the door. And I said something like, it's been an honor to work at this great institution. And later I heard for many years afterwards that quote for me was repeated at the board meeting. Like they said, well, we let her go. And somebody said, how was it? And she said it was an honor to work at this great institution. It held me in very good stead, because years later, when the head of the board said to me, Suzy, we made a huge mistake and so forth and so on, I've got to, and that I hold that very dear, that information.
Yeah.
I think that part of it was that when I went out the door complimenting the organization and telling them it had been an honor. And so I suggest that you act like that girl whose head caught on fire, literally, or you say something about, I appreciate my time here. I learned a lot, and I am grateful that I had a chance to work at this, great institution, or this wonderful company, or this company that I think is going to do really well. I think it behooves you. To try to show as much dignity and poise in the moment as you can.
Because business is a small island.
Yeah,
right?
It's an island. You will see everyone again. Yeah. You may hate them.
Yeah.
And they may not be too fond of you, okay? But a lot of times they're not saying hateful things to you. So I think it's the time to do something that's very, very unnatural. So in the moment, that's what I suggest you do, okay?
So Suzy, now that we have these 5 people that have been fired that are in my life,
right.
I want to ask you, what is your best advice for what to do now?
Here's what you're going to want to do. You're going to want to go get a job. Okay. You're going to start spamming people all over LinkedIn. You're just going to hit all these buttons, boom, 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 easy apply. Right. And you're just going to go completely. By the way, we've got job openings at Becoming You Labs. Okay. So
plug it, Suzy.
Check us out. But you're going to start applying like crazy. And I'm going to say, stop that right now, because, here's the thing. You've got to get existential, even if it's just for a little while, before you get tactical. Yeah. You have left a job you shouldn't go back to, all right? Immediately what people do is they start applying for jobs just like the one they just left, because they've got all those skills. They've got a resume that they think matches. Don't do that. There's a reason you got laid off, and it's because you were probably not a fit for that line of work. So you've got to get existential. What does it mean? Well, Dustin, all roads lead back to Becoming You. The methodology that we practice at Becoming You Labs, and I teach at NYU Stern, School of Business, and all around the world. You've got to figure out some stuff about yourself, because look, you're ready to have the new you.
Yeah.
You're ready to go on a new road. Okay. Yeah. You just, okay, I'm not going to do that anymore. I got fired from it. And then we start looking around, and you got to figure out how to get started in the next new you. Okay. The past is the past.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of overwhelming. It's like, do I go left? Do I go right? Do I go up? Do I go back? But the thing is, you got to go in another direction, just not the one you were in. How do you figure that out? Well, you've got to know some stuff about yourself that's really fundamental.
Yeah.
This doesn't take forever. Okay. This is not a stalling thing. This is actually going to help you go faster, sooner. Okay. You've got to finally get a beat on what your values are. Like, if your number one value is non-sibby, which means wanting to help other people, don't go work in an organization or in a company or a line of work that's not about helping people if it's your number one value. Because not only have to figure out your values, you have to figure out how much you're willing to give up of your values, because you may have helping people as your number one value, but your second value is affluence, money. And you got to figure out before you move forward what the trade-off, how much you're willing to trade off for one of those two values, okay? And so the number one thing is you've got to figure out your values. How do you do that? You do that with the Values Bridge, which you can take. There's a free version. There's a paid version. You can get a version in my book. Or there's not. Look, other people have values tools you can use. Brene Brown has a whole list of values, not the values that we use in Becoming You, but you could look at her list. It's completely free. And so, but you got to understand what your values are so that you can find an organization that has similar values. That's number one. Start with yourself with your values. Then you got to get a very clear-eyed picture of what your aptitudes are. Your intellectual, what are you good at? Are you a generalist or a specialist? Are you a diagnostic problem solver or a process supporter? You've got to know how your brain works. Your organization probably told you, look, you're too abstract and we need somebody who's very, you're beginning to get an understanding of how your brain is wired, and what you should be doing. Do you love details, or are you a generalist? Or, you've got to know that. And the other thing you got to know about your aptitudes is how your personality is received. You may think you're a people person, but maybe you are not. Yeah. You may think you're a really good executor, but maybe you are not. And you may think you're a big font of ideas, but maybe you're not. You've got to know with a steely-eyed realism what you're actually good at, not what your parents want you to be good at. Not necessarily where all the big jobs are, what you are actually good at.
Yeah.
and what you're not really good at. Okay. And then finally, what interests you? And oh, yeah, I know what interests me. Really? Is your aperture really open?
Yeah.
I mean, I'll never forget. Look, if you're young and you've been fired, you can take so many more risks and big swings than you will later when you've got kids and a mortgage. When I was in business school, there were 7 guys. This was 1988. We were writing our exams by hand, okay?
Mm-hmm.
7 guys, all men, after graduation, went to a place called Silicon Valley. I was like, why? And I was told it's because they like to golf. And I was like, is there golf there? They went there because they heard that this thing was coming, the internet. And you can do that when you're young. You can take obviously technology interested them.
Yeah.
And so you can really, you've got to open up your aperture about what's coming, what's out there, what might you be interested in. And sometimes we just lie to ourselves about what we're interested in. I mean, I always think about this woman who said, I don't know what to do. All I really want to do in life is dog rescue. What should I do with my life? And I thought, dog rescue? I mean, what the heck? If that's what you're really interested in, we have to let ourselves hear what we're good. So you have to get existential, get those 3 data sets figured out, then start thinking about what jobs you should apply for. You think it's going to take time to do that, but look, if you really, really want to do it, do Becoming You, because that's what we do in Becoming You. But but I would say you can do that even without Becoming You, although I highly recommend it. All right, and then. Here's a piece of advice you're not going to want to get, which is it's time to hit the phones and the email and the texting, because that's how jobs are being gotten right now, is through conversations. The old-fashioned way. I don't like to use the word networking because I think it's with friends, and it's like, call everybody you know, tell them what you're looking for, tell them the narrative of what you want to do, because you know your values and your aptitudes and your interests. Don't be mamby-pamby about it, and start to think about designing this future, the next step that might be right for you. There's going to be so much sweat. And so much, it's not going to be easy. You know what? Getting the job is not going to happen with you sitting behind your computer hitting easy apply. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen that way. You got to do the work.
Suzy, before we finish the podcast, I have to ask about the story about you getting fired by your husband.
Yeah.
So you got fired by Jack.
Yeah.
What happened?
Okay, so after Jack left GE, my husband ran General Electric, and then he retired. Mm-hmm. And somewhere along the way, he decided to start what is now a very, very successful company, successful business. It's called the Jack Welch Management Institute. It's within Strayer University, and it's an online business school. It's huge. It's like the largest online business school in the world. But when we started it, it was just him and me, and he wanted me to write the curriculum. And he just had this idea that the way he did business could be taught at a business school.
Yeah.
And it was really, really early days. Now it's huge, but in those days, this was probably 2003. Okay, so a long time ago, and he thought I was a smart and capable person. So he made me head of marketing. I had never done any marketing before in my life, and he made me head of sales and marketing. He just thought this would be a cool thing for me to do. I understood the method. I understood his way of running business, and this involved me doing things like calling up potential corporate clients and trying to get them interested in the program. And I want to say that no one has ever been worse at a job than I was at this job. I loved him, and I loved everything about what he was doing. This is not my aptitude. It's not, I had no experience in it. No connection to my aptitudes, none. And no connection to how I am with my personality, anything. Now with my values were sort of a match to it, possibly, but this was a true gigantic mismatch of aptitudes and interests, because I just was not that interested in that kind of sales and marketing. So this was bumping along, and I just was unable to sell or market anything. Yeah. It kind of went on, and every day he'd kind of look at me over dinner, and he would sort of say, like, "Did you sell anything today?" And I'd be like, "Well, and I was just an epic fail. And I was feeling a lot of despair because I didn't want to let him down. And one day he went golfing. This was in the middle of summer, and I had a full day of epic fails with all the phone calls I was making. This is back in the days when people still made phone calls. And he went golfing, and then I thought, wow, he should be home by now. And about 15 minutes after that, he drove up the driveway, and he got out of the car, and I was watching him through the window. When he got out of the car, he reached into the car, and he took out a bouquet of flowers and a bottle of wine.
Oh, Suzy.
And I thought, he's coming to fire me.
You saw that and you thought?
I knew because he was displeased with me. And believe me, he was quite direct. So he comes up the stairs and he's walking towards me with like, for no reason whatsoever. There was not my birthday, okay? And he was walking towards me with like some flowers and a bottle of wine. And he said, honey, and I said, are you firing me? And he said, I am. You're done. And I said, yay! And I hugged him. I was very relieved because I had other security. I had marriage security because he wasn't going to fire me from our wonderful, happy marriage. But I was so relieved. And then what did he do? He immediately hired a true professional who stayed in the job for about 20 years and built this incredible organization. But he did fire me, and it was very brief, and we had a good laugh over it. But but I'll tell you something, Dustin. As he was walking towards the house and then up the steps with the flowers and the bottle of wine, and he was coming towards me, even though I was relieved, I still felt sick to my stomach. I felt like I've let him down. I've not succeeded, and that feeling I'm about to get canned. Anyway, it was all good. It was it happened. And then I got to tell all the kids and all of our friends with great glee, Jack fired me. Jack fired me. He said to me, "Would you stop putting it that way?" And I said, "But you fired me, didn't you, honey?"
With flowers and wine. I mean, I wish all firings looked like that, but
I know.
Can't do it. Well, knowing that people who are listening to this podcast may be in this position where they, were just fired, laid off. I mean, I'm curious, any last pieces of wisdom?
Yeah, let's end with my piece of advice that I promised to give. And I think I've said it before in this podcast, but I couldn't say it enough times in my life, which is that a lot of times the day you are fired is the best day of your career. It doesn't feel that way. The irony is, in the moment, it feels like I felt when Jack was coming up the stairs. Like if you feel sick to your stomach, there's shame, there's humiliation, there's all sorts of feelings. But a firing forces you to figure out who you are and to start to build a life of design and deliberation, which is what we're all about at Becoming You Lab. So you hate the day you were fired, but a lot of time, the vast majority of times, you come to become very grateful for it. And I think it's very hard to say that on the day you've been fired. Like, someday I'm going to be grateful for this, but I'm going to urge you to do it. To say, like, it's a kick in the butt, but it's in the right direction.
Yeah.
Okay? It's kicking you forward.
Yeah.
And it's important to remember that pain transforms. It transforms into something else, but more importantly than anything else, it transforms you.
Well, thank you, Suzy, for all of this advice. I can't wait to send this podcast to my friends when it comes out. And if folks want to learn more about Becoming You, where do they go?
It's impossible to miss out there. We're in your face every single moment. We've got newsletters. We've got our website, SuzyWelch.com, BecomingYouLabs.com. We're on LinkedIn, Instagram, everywhere. We've got intensive workshops. Please come to New York and come to our workshops. We've got every which way that we can be found, we will be found, because we really, really believe that when you live your purpose, you are living your authentic and full life. And so we're all about getting purpose to the people. Becoming You. I'm Suzy Welch. Thanks so much for joining us.